Every realtor wants to do better on Instagram. Well, today we're going to show you a different path. Stay tuned.
This episode of Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. How many homes are you going to sell this year? Do you have the right tools? Is your website turning soft leads into interested buyers? Are you spending money on leads that aren't converting? Well, Real Geeks is your solution. Find out why agents across the country choose Real Geeks as their technology partner. Real Geeks was created by an agent for agents. They pride themselves on delivering a sales and marketing solution so that you can easily generate more business. Their agent websites are fast and built for lead conversion with a smooth search experience for your visitors. Real Geeks also includes an easy-to-use agent CRM. So once a lead signs up on your website, you can track their interest and have great follow-up conversations. Real Geeks is loaded with a ton of marketing tools to nurture your leads and increase brand awareness. Visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod and find out why realtors come to Real Geeks to generate more business. Again, visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod. And now, onto our show.
Today's episode is brought to you by Corded.io. Are you looking for agents to join your brokerage or team? Now, as a real estate recruiter, I can tell you the answer is always yes. But most agents aren't looking to move right now. So how do you know who to contact? Well, what if I were to tell you there's a recruiting and retention tool powered by artificial intelligence that shows you exactly which agents in your local market are looking to leave their brokerage right now, and which agents at your own firm are also looking to leave you? Now, I've been recruiting realtors for 15 years and I've hired over 2,000 agents. I can tell you with no exaggeration, this is the tool I've been waiting for. Corded's AI looks for trends across dozens of variables for each agent in your market and shows you which agents they believe are likely to move. Not only does it do that, but Corded's AI went and visited my recruiting website and read everything I offer. So now when I'm recruiting, Corded's AI tells me exactly what to say based on that agent's needs and what my brokerage can offer. It even writes emails for me. I've never seen anything like it, and I use it every single day. Now, if you are looking to grow your brokerage, Corded.io is the best tool out there. Visit Corded.io to schedule a demo. Again, that's Corded.io. And now, onto the show. Welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I'm your guide and host through the show. And in just a moment, we're going to be speaking with LinkedIn expert Jared Talmadge. Before we get to Jared, just a few quick reminders. We have a webinar coming up here on the 25th of February, and it is free to all of our listeners. I want you to go to keepingitrealwebinar.com and use the promo code podcast. Again, keepingitrealwebinar.com, promo code podcast will reduce the price to $0. Thank goodness to our sponsors. And what we're doing there is a 3 session summit. And we did this last month and had a great response. We're doing it again. We're going to have 3 sessions. One of them is going to be a top producer. One's going to be a coaching session with an up-and-coming top producer. And the third is going to be Kim Rittberg, who's going to tell you how to crush it on video. This is all new content, totally different from last month. Go there. It's going to be fun and live, and we can chat in person. You can chat with the guests, the speakers, and me as well. So keepingitrealwebinar.com. Use promo code podcast for free admission. We have just a few seats left, so please do that today before someone else grabs a spot. As always, please tell a friend about our podcast. Tell someone else about the webinar. We appreciate that too. Let's get those seats filled, and we will see you guys here next week, or whenever this comes out on the 25th is when we'll see you. It's from 12 to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right, let's get right to it. My conversation with Jared Talmadge. All right, today my guest on the show is Jared Talmadge. Let me tell you more about it. This is a very exciting episode for me. I need help in this particular area of Jared's specialty, and I suspect you do too, but let me tell you more about Jared. Jared Talmadge is an author, instructor, and consultant with nearly 30 years of experience in the mortgage and real estate industries. He began using LinkedIn in 2005 and started teaching agents how to leverage the platform in 2014. Jared is the author of 12 books, including his newest one, The LinkedIn Real Estate Agent, which was recently recognized by Inman as one of the top 10 business books for real estate in 2024. He lives in Denver, Colorado, and offers a free preview of his book at classeswithjared.com. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. You can also find the book on Amazon, The LinkedIn Real Estate Agent. And again, check out his website, Classes with Jared. That's JARRED.com. Jared, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, DJ.
I'm excited to chat with you because I am a big fan of LinkedIn. I don't totally know how to use it myself all that effectively. So I am excited to get some insight. But before we jump into how to use LinkedIn, tell us more about you. How did you come to this specialty?
So I really kind of found this as actually a real estate agent that got me into it. But what really happened was, so back in 2005, I was working as a recruiter, and we stumbled across this little site that everybody kept hearing about. Nobody really knew what it was, and it was called LinkedIn. And it was at that point a dream, more or less, for a recruiter, because all of a sudden we had all these very high level people that you couldn't get to before, and they had their resumes out and they had all this information. And that was kind of like how LinkedIn started. It was supposed to be monster competitor, right? Like
Correct.
That was the whole plan. And so I did that, and I was really successful at working with LinkedIn and using it to recruit, which of course happened. And then the Great Recession happened, and I kind of walked away from everything at that point. And so I came back to it about 7 years later. I got a real estate license, and I was sitting in the first meeting of a real estate office. And of course, everybody who's listening, or at least a lot of people who are listening, know that the first day on your real estate, when you have a real estate license and you're first getting there, you have no idea what you're doing. And so we go down to this basement room that looked like it was like straight out of 1973. And I was half expecting the speech from either Glengarry Glen Ross or Boiler Room, right? Where they come in and they do the whole recruit. And
throw
so
the keys on the table. Yeah.
Here's my Ferrari. Well, what happened was something real similar. So my managing broker comes in and she says, "Okay, this is how you get business, right?" And she says, she picks up this flyer and she says, "Here, copy this flyer. Go to Walmart and plaster it on every single car you find, and hopefully somebody will call you for real estate." And I had just graduated with my MBA in marketing.
You didn't want to, like restaurants, put flyers underneath everyone's windshield?
I just sat there and I was just shaking my head, and she kind of looked at me and she's like, "Well, what's wrong with you?" And I said, "If that's the best you got, man, are we in trouble?" And she kind of like, she got mad because I guess she thought it was kind of a challenge to her, which it really wasn't. I was being serious, but I have a tendency to tell people what I think, whether they want to or not. And so she says, "Well, fine. If you think you can do better, come back next week with a better plan." And so I walked out of that office, formed a marketing company, came back the next week and said, "Here's how you market yourself." And I started listing down these things. And one of the things I said was, "You guys really need a LinkedIn profile, and you really need to be, there." Within a couple of days, I had almost the entire office working with me. That launched a marketing company. And I did that for real estate agents, mortgage brokers for like 10 years. I realized very quickly that I wasn't, I didn't really understand real estate in terms of being a realtor. I understood how to market it. I just didn't like the actual process of doing it. And so I started teaching these as classes. Well, I kind of given it up right around 2018, 2019. And so then last year, I'm having breakfast with a real estate agent friend of mine. And we're doing a kind of a networking breakfast thing. And he says to me, "Well, do you know social media?" And I said, "Yeah, what do you want to know?" And he says, "Well, I'm thinking about advertising on Facebook." And I said, "Wow, I wouldn't." And he says, "Why?" And I said, "It's not 2008, dude. What are you doing?" And he says, "Well, if you know so much, what do you know?" And I said, "Well, I would recommend LinkedIn, and here's why." A week later, I was teaching classes again. And then as I was teaching classes last year, somebody came up to me and they said, "You really talk very quickly when you teach," which I know. And they said, we need we need like a book or something, like a follow-on flyer and stuff. And I said, all right, fine. So I recorded the myself teaching the class, and then I sat down and I started transcribing it. And what came out of it was the book, The LinkedIn Real Estate Agent. And I said, well, I have all this knowledge, I have all this information. I'm just going to put it out there to the world and see what happens. Well, the funny thing was, the book had never been intended to be anything real big. It was just kind of like the giveaway as part of the class. 6 weeks after it was published, Inman recognized it as the best business book of the year, and ironically didn't tell me. And I didn't find out.
Like Inman.
Yeah, I didn't find out about it until somebody in like November sent me an email, and they said, hey, congratulations on doing this. And I said, great, what did I do? And they said, well, your book has been named, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, cool. And so I went back and I went to Inman, I found the article, and I talked to the writer, and all of a sudden here we are. And so, yeah, so the class and the whole consulting thing had originally just been, let me tell a friend of mine over breakfast, this is how you build your business. And it's very quickly becoming something of a little cottage industry unto itself.
I love it. That's a great story. I love the birth of business ideas with, you identified a need, and it's really an immense need is, leads, right? Leads are
Yes.
always a need. And though that will never stop as long as there's real estate agents, is they need more leads. And they're all playing in Facebook and Instagram. We know that that's
Right.
the space that realtors tend to, post about their lives, post about their deals, but they're probably ignoring LinkedIn. So let's talk about it. Why LinkedIn?
So here's the basic premise of it, right? So everybody says, oh, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. And what are they getting? Like, they're collecting likes, right? But likes don't pay the bills. I mean, it's just as simple as that. And so think of it this way. LinkedIn represents basically the biggest, most impressive business database the world has ever seen. There's 300 and some million users, 100 million in the United States alone. And everybody is like there to do one thing. They're there to connect and do more business with each other. And so when you start thinking of it in that terms, and combine that with the fact that LinkedIn, the purpose of Facebook, the purpose of Instagram, the purpose of YouTube is to keep you scrolling on their site, right? Like, it's you do this, and then you fall into a cat video or a panda video or something. And all of a sudden it's like 2 hours later, you're like, what just happened? LinkedIn is designed to get you to do that, except with other people and connect with them. And so when you kind of frame it that way, all of a sudden people start to get it. But the way I put it to real estate agents, and the best possible way I've ever seen this explained, is this. Every single one of your clients between now and the end of your career, whatever that's 10 years, 15 years, 50 years from now, they're all in the same place at the same time. They're all on LinkedIn right now. Why wouldn't you be on there? Like, why would you squander that opportunity? And yet it gets ignored, or people say, oh, well, it doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work because you're probably not really committed to it, I guess. And so that's kind of my passion, is basically saying to people, let me show you some of the things you can do with LinkedIn and why it matters.
Yeah, let's get started there. So when I think about LinkedIn, and probably our audience too, we all have LinkedIn profiles. We're actually streaming live to LinkedIn currently at this moment, but there's untapped potential even for me to understand. So let's talk about, what can I start to do on LinkedIn to start to craft and build my business?
Right. So let's start with the first premise, which is that LinkedIn is no longer what we consider your digital resume. I mean, yes, it can be, but if you really think about it, LinkedIn is your digital reputation online. Now, why say that? Because LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft. Microsoft has conversations with Google. And because of that, the first most beneficial thing you've got is that when somebody Googles you and they look you up, they're going to get your LinkedIn profile if you have one. And why is that important? Well, because in today's day and age, if somebody buys a toothbrush from Amazon and they're going to spend $3, they're going to read the reviews, right? Like, they're not
every time
they're just going to read the reviews. They're going to read the good, they're going to read the bad, and then they're going to make a decision. Well, you're talking about $3 investment.
Right.
What happens if we're talking about the investment of you selling your house? If you don't think your client is doing some research on the back, behind your back, looking at you, you're wrong. And so here's the thing. What if you could control that narrative, or at least
Yeah.
take a big chunk of that narrative and say, let me tell you what I want you to know, rather than being at the whims of what Google is going to find out. Especially if you're somebody who has a name that's common, and you put your name in and all of a sudden it Googles up and it says, you're a prison convict or some other terrible thing. And you're just like, and then down and buried in the bottom of page 2 is like, you as the real estate agent, right? You
Right.
don't want to do that. But if your LinkedIn profile shows up higher because you've been working on it, and it shows up as one of those top 3 things, now you have a direct line of communication to your client, where you're basically building an online storefront that exists all the time. But people are going to go read it, and they're going to go check you out, and they're going to want to know more about you. And you, as the agent, have the power to control that. Why wouldn't you take care of it?
Yeah, I love that. And also LinkedIn really is, the follow ability on LinkedIn, I think, is underutilized,
Oh,
right? We
absolutely.
we we forget how many people follow us based on our content. So it's not enough to have just a profile. Everyone's got a profile. Nobody cares. What's important is, what kind of content can I push out to the audience I am looking to attract?
Yes, and to that end, so think of it this way. If LinkedIn is the world's biggest database, then your profile is your storefront.
Yep.
And so I tell people, start with your storefront, your thing. Your banner. I saw Brian Buffini 30 years ago when he was still teaching. He used to say the last thing you ever wanted to do as a real estate agent was be undercover, right? But yet most agents will hide their email address or their phone number or some other. I generally tell people, start with the banner and make sure, if you put nothing else in the banner, put in your name, put in your phone number, put in your email address, give people a way to contact you, because you only have a couple of seconds where they're going to land on that page and they're going to make a
Yep.
decision. And if that banner is blank, you're already telling people, I don't really care. So start with the banner, make sure the banner actually has something. And if you really want to get advanced now, have the banner send them someplace. Join my newsletter, sign up for something, do something, get to my mailing list, that kind of thing. That's the first part. And so then I tell people, look at your profile picture. Is it a picture of you that looks professional, or are you doing a cartoon or a logo or your kids or your dog? Don't do those things. Like, just have a professional picture. I mean, if push comes to shove, have a headshot. It's not that hard. But again, people kind of want to mix Facebook and LinkedIn and say, oh, it's all just social media. Well, no, it really isn't. And so just to start, there's that. And then the other thing I always tell my people when I teach is, connection with LinkedIn is just the beginning of the process. And you have to stay, and like you're talking about, you have to be able to put out content. You have to put out information. You have to give a reason. Think of it as the reason somebody's going to come into your store. If you're not throwing out information that says, this is why you should talk to me, why is anybody going to follow that back to you?
Makes perfect sense. So, what I'm also interested, what I always love about LinkedIn that I think a lot of our audience might not fully embrace, is it's a wonderful research lab. If
Yes.
you are looking for reasons to contact people,
Yes.
they have all, LinkedIn does better than any other platform. Tells you milestones in people's careers,
Yep.
tells you when their work anniversary is, tells you how long they've been at a company, tells you when gotten a promotion, when they switch jobs. These are things that maybe their friends don't even know about them, because they're not, they haven't told the world yet, but they've told LinkedIn, because the first thing we do when we get a new job or we get a promotion is we go and update our LinkedIn profile.
Right.
This is where you can really deepen relationships as an agent. You can see this in your feed. You can see this in your notifications. It's really clear. It's not just, hey, this person has a birthday. That's great. And that's wonderful. And you should celebrate that. And you really should celebrate all these other milestones that LinkedIn literally tells you every day. Here's somebody celebrating a milestone. And to me, I see that as an opportunity as an agent to reach out and say, hey, I just saw that you did this thing. I'm really proud of you, or I'm really happy about it. Tell me about it. What's going on?
Yeah, and so think of it this way. There is actually a bunch of techniques in LinkedIn design that you can use that kind of information to create business. And as a business owner or as somebody who's in sales, you absolutely should do that. But what do most people do, right? So it pops up and it says so-and-so, so-and-so, and they have a birthday. So what do? You like hit reply and it pops up, it says happy birthday. And then you hit send and then they go, well, how come nobody ever says anything after you do that? Well, it's because they know that all you did was it popped up and it said happy birthday and that's it. And so one of the things I immediately teach people about generating leads on LinkedIn is to say, think about it this way. What if this is somebody you know? What if this is somebody you've met before? And let's even face it, even if you haven't met them before, go beyond just the happy birthday. Like, great, I'm sending a card and that's what we've kind of been reduced to. No, instead, take that moment to say, hey, I wanted to wish you a happy birthday. Thanks for doing this. Or, thank you for the last time we had a conversation. How are things? Blah, blah, blah. It's a conversation starter. And what do people do? They go, oh, I'm just going to hit the normal happy birthday and that's it. And it's like, but if you think about it this way, most people do not get interaction on LinkedIn. 90% of LinkedIn posts or LinkedIn comments, whatever it is, don't get response.
Right.
So one of the best ways you can start doing this is you can start responding to people, but take out that prefab thing and instead write something personal. Even if it's just, hey, it's snowing outside and I know it's your birthday and I hope you're not getting cold, whatever it is, and have a great day, blah, blah, whatever. Start the conversation because that's where all sales begin in the first place, is with that conversation. You just don't know where it's going to go. And so same thing I tell people when they're connecting on LinkedIn, right? People go, oh, well, I have 15,000 connections. Great. But if they're not paying attention to you, they're not doing anything with you, what's the point? And so I look at it and say, whenever you have the availability for LinkedIn to do something and you pop it up and it says, here's a prefabbed message, my first message to you is delete that message. You're better off sending nothing than sending that prefab stuff.
Right.
Because again, you're building relationships.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I think, what are we all looking for in life, whether it's business, personal? We're looking for connection. We're looking for people to pay attention to us, to say, I see you, I hear you, I feel you in whatever way. I'm here for you. And that is, that requires requires a bit of courage for somebody to reach out and say, I want to connect with you.
Yes.
Or reconnect with you. In LinkedIn, you're already connected to people. I think I'm curious what you think. Would it be okay for somebody I haven't talked to in a long time, maybe it's their birthday, like you were saying, and instead of saying just happy birthday, say happy birthday. Hey, by the way, I have, let me think about this. So I have missed some of your birthdays before. I don't want that to happen again. I would love to reconnect with you and get caught up in your life.
Think about it this way. If somebody came up out of the blue and said that to you and you knew who they were, you'd absolutely...
I'd be thrilled.
Absolutely. And so the more personal you make it, the better off you are. Now, we live in a day and age where everybody says, well, you've got to have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 followers, or somehow you don't mean something. Here's the thing. As most people kind of get to that point, they realize your database doesn't have to be 20, 30, 40,000 people. You want to have those a few hundred to 1,000 people that you really know. And if you can develop that kind of relationship, I mean, you get to reset this whole thing every year. So you can literally say, I want to start today and I'm going to just make a goal of, I'm going to say happy birthday, everybody. I'm going to talk about when I get a work anniversary, I'm going to acknowledge what they're doing in the business, ask them how their business is doing, and maybe talk to them about, something else, so that it's not just a, hey, congratulations on your work anniversary, because truthfully, nobody cares. The funny thing is, my work anniversary for one of my jobs was yesterday. You know who noticed? Nobody. And I'm okay with that, because I was like, wow, okay. But again, when you compare that to the impact of somebody standing up and saying, hey, this is really cool that you've been doing this for this long.
Yeah.
Oh, now that's where LinkedIn starts the process. And that's where I tell people the interaction on LinkedIn starts with, what are you talking to the client about? And what are you putting out there that says, this is what I do? Most people just go, oh, it's just a resume, I don't need to worry about it. And it's gone so far beyond that. And if you take that and you say, part one here is do a new profile. Part 2 is here's how you do lead generation. And part 3 is here's how you push it up. Now, all of a sudden you realize that this is not something that just happens where you go, oh, I'm going to do this today and I don't have to worry about it. This is an ongoing thing. But what I talk about in the book is I say, here's the thing. If you're a real estate agent and you have the opportunity to talk to, say, 70 or 80,000 people this year, would you do it?
Sure.
Would you do it? Would you do it if it was free?
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
But that's what LinkedIn has become.
Right.
And I will tell you, I've been guilty of the fact that I've been doing this for a year now, but I didn't really start in earnest until about April or May. But now I'm looking at it going, why haven't I been doing this my whole career? Why haven't I been pushing this more? And it's like, oh yeah, okay, I forgot I was busy doing other things, but here we are.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking as you were giving these great examples of how to utilize LinkedIn, I started thinking about going cross-platform, and I want to get your thoughts on this. So, for example, it was your work anniversary yesterday. Nobody noticed. You might have not even known it was your work anniversary unless LinkedIn told you.
Exactly.
Because that's what happens to me too, right? I never know when it's my work anniversary. But if I were an agent and I was connected to one of my previous clients and I was wanting, I want them to know I care about them. I want them to, because if they know that I care about them, even after a sale, before a sale, they're more likely going to refer business to me. They're going to feel good about me. They're going to think I'm engaged. So I'm going to look at that feed. And when I see those, work anniversaries or those promotions or whatever, what I'm going to do is I'm going to then, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, I'm going to then get out of LinkedIn. I'm going to head to my phone. I'm going to either text or I'm going to call. I'm going to be like, hey, I just noticed on LinkedIn, you just celebrated 10 years, blah, blah, blah. Or you just got a promotion. Man, that's amazing. Congratulations on that. I would love to connect with you and I'd love to reconnect with you. Let's chat. That is about as flattering of a thing, but I'm curious if you would agree with that.
Well, here's the positive and negative of it. Will it work? Absolutely, it'll work. Would I recommend it? Sure, why not try it? The only way you're going to know if it works for you is to try it. But the advantage of using LinkedIn, for example, and I'll use this example from somebody I talked to yesterday, actually. He and I had been talking, and he says to me, I'd like you to do this project for me. And I said, okay, great. We negotiated the terms. We did all this other stuff. So I sent him a text last night and I said, hey, this is where the contract is. I'll call you in the morning. So it's just, I get this text back and immediately says, who is this? And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But that's cool because he didn't have my phone number.
Right.
And so the first response was, well, who are you and why are you doing this? Now he knew that I was using that. I obviously knew him because I was using his name in a different version than what he presents out in public. I was using a more informal version. And I said, oh, this is Jared Talmadge. And he goes, oh, okay, great. And then it was fine, which illustrates this point. If you do it within LinkedIn and you say that, there's no chance that they don't know who's sending it.
Correct.
Now, in this day and age, I have on my phone my do not disturb button, and it basically allows me to say, if I don't have you programmed into my phone as a name and a phone number, you'll immediately go to voicemail.
Me too.
A lot of people have this, or text messages. I'll just see it and go, oh, it's a text message, but it's
I don't know who that
number
is.
I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
With LinkedIn, at least you don't have to worry about the spam factor, or you don't have to or you don't have to worry about getting sent into spam. Now, to that end, some of the stuff that I tell agents about, one of the great things I talk about is LinkedIn now has audio and video messaging inside the LinkedIn app.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And it's one of those things that I tell people, I'm like, okay, so here's how you find out if you can do it. So it's free. First off, it's free, which is of course amazing in itself because LinkedIn doesn't tell you it's there. You just kind of stumble across it. So if you go into your LinkedIn app and you go find one of your first level connections, right? So somebody you have a definitive connection with. Now, I warn you, do not try this at home without thinking about this first, because the audio feature does not have a take back button. Okay.
Oh.
So when you do it, don't do it when you're drunk. Don't do it when you're not paying attention, because once you start recording, you can't stop. And once you let go, it sends. So here's how you do it.
No kidding. Wow.
Right.
So you have to think it through.
You have to think it through. But if you go to your LinkedIn app and you go find somebody on your phone and you say, okay, here's a first level connection, what you're looking for is there's a blue message button. So you click the blue message button, it pops up, and it looks like everything else, where it looks like a text message. But if you notice at the bottom of the screen, depending on what kind of phone you have, they all have a little microphone at the bottom. Well, if you hold down that microphone button, you are now going to record up to 60 seconds of audio. But the thing is, as soon as you let go of that audio button, it's gone. It's sent. So, but think about this. If everybody else is like, and I'm sure you're like everybody else, you're getting messages constantly from people trying to solicit you for business.
Yep.
And it's like, you can always tell it's Chat GPT, because it's always like, can I find, I hope this finds you well. Would you like to jump on a call? It's really easy, blah, blah, whatever. Here's the thing. You want to stand out, you want to really scare somebody, do the audio feature instead. So literally take your phone, hold it up, find the person's connection, go there, hit the message button, and then hold it down and then talk for like 30 to 60 seconds. Let go, it's automatically sent. Now, that person on the other end of that message is going to get a note. If they have their LinkedIn notifications on, they'll get a notification that somebody sent them a message. Well, they're going to go on their LinkedIn expecting to see a text message, and instead it's going to be your voice.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that's really cool. What kind of witchcraft did you do here, right? Well, the other side of this is in that same place. So you go up to find your first level connection, and you hit the message button, you pop up. If you look on the other side, depending on what kind of phone you have, you'll either have a plus sign or you'll have a paperclip. Well, if you click that, it pops up an option to send photo or video. Well, okay, so how this works. You can shoot up to 60 seconds of video on your phone and send it to somebody in LinkedIn. Now, the advantage of this is it actually has retakes. So if you shoot a video and you're like, oh, that's terrible, you can redo it. Similarly, you can record a video and keep it on your phone. Like, you just save it on your phone, and then you can actually upload it and send it out. So if you have like one message that you want to send to multiple people, you don't have to go re-record it every time. You just literally save it, send it, and do it. The only thing is you have to do them individually.
Yeah.
But again, when you're talking about a world where everybody else is using text and they're not even actually writing their own texts, this, 90% of human communication is visual. And so all of a sudden you have a video and you're saying, hey, this is Jared. Thanks for coming along. I hope this helps, blah, 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 blah. It changes everything for your clients. And
it's so funny. It's so funny you say that, because whenever I get a video message via email, whether it's Loom or BombBomb or one of these third-party solutions,
right.
And I always watch it every single time. And because it's not often, because of the effort I know it takes. I mean, unless somebody's sending me a video that they've made that's not specifically for me, and then I can figure that out within a few seconds. But usually it's about me, and I am, number one, I'm flattered that somebody would do that. It feels validating, right? And it, like you're saying, it really only takes 30 to 60 seconds, and all you're doing is saying, I see you, I care about you, and what's going to happen is, number one, they've never received a video or an audio message on LinkedIn. You will be the first person to ever do this for them.
Yes.
And as a result, they will be impressed. Now, they might not see it too. That's possible, but that's okay too. I mean, some people aren't going to see it, but people who do see it you will be the only person that has ever done this, that has ever cared enough to take their camera, turn it around, and send them a message on LinkedIn. We know that you can do this in other platforms. People aren't doing it on LinkedIn. It feels different when it's on LinkedIn. It feels special when it's on LinkedIn.
Well, and the truth is, it's just another way for you to stand out and say, here I am, I'm paying attention to you, this is what I'm doing. Because people don't, they're just not used to it. They're used to getting those cold messages. Oh, well, just jump on a call. I mean, I get calls from people, and it's like, I go look at their profile. I'm like, what are you doing? You have no business selling what you're selling. But that's the other piece that I tell people on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's there to be a business to business site. Their goal is to sell. If you sell a little bit too profusely on Facebook, on your personal page, they'll throw you out, right? I don't know about Instagram because I don't really pay much attention to it. But the point is, YouTube's got a lot of business videos on there, but its point is to entertain. LinkedIn is truly still the last social media outlet out there that's entirely based on selling and business and relationship building. And that's what makes it so cool, because we don't have to tippy-toe around and say, oh, we're going to be the unethical salesperson that's going to make it look like we're sending a message, but we're really trying to sell something. No, this, you could just be unadulterated. I'm here to sell you something, but it doesn't mean you have to be a pushy salesperson either.
Right.
It just means you have to stay top of mind.
Yeah, people just want to know that you see them and care about them, and you can do that through a video or an audio message. Again, no one else. It's not crowded along the extra mile, as they say. No one else is doing this. Everyone's sending those in message messages, which and that those can work too if
Right.
you customize them. If you actually take the time to say something unique to the person, then yes, it can possibly work. And yes, you were saying a good point with, if you take information off LinkedIn to it and text it, you do run that risk of like, hey,
Right.
if this person knows me, it's a good idea. If the person doesn't know me, I wouldn't probably do it. I would stay on LinkedIn.
Right.
I want to know now. So now we've talked about, okay, we got to clean up our profile. We now know how to connect with people who we're interested in. And now I want to talk about, what type of content should I be posting on LinkedIn as a real estate agent?
So here's the thing, as a real estate agent, and this, okay, I'm going to extend this out to everybody and say, it doesn't matter what you sell. Okay. So we're going to go for the broad audience here. What you want to do is this: everybody who sells something knows the 3 questions that your clients are going to ask before you ever say anything. Right. And I'm sure, DJ, you've experienced this. You introduce yourself. Hey, I'm a real estate agent. I work in Chicago. And immediately there's 3 questions that are going to come to mind for the client that they're going to ask you. And they almost always ask you those same questions.
Yep.
These are what I call the pain point questions, right? They want to know, because ultimately at the end of the day, what they want to know is, do you solve my problem? Because that's how we get business. That's how we get referrals. That's how we get more business. We basically say, this is the problem that I have. Let me show you how I solve it. And so when it comes to content, what I tell people is, if you don't know what to write, start with those 3 questions that you have in the back of your head. The client goes, oh, by the way, I should do this. Oh, by the way, I should do that. I was teaching a class the other day, and I said, what is your, one of your, it was a room full of about 40 realtors. And I said, what is the one question that you guys are getting asked the most this right now? And I knew pretty much where it was going, but one realtor says, should I pay buyer's agents a commission? And that's usually what the client was asking him as a listing agent. And I said, great, what's your answer? And he says, well, and he thinks about it for a second. And he says, well, the reason you want to pay listing agent or buyer's agents is because if you don't, you're missing out on all these people that are going to help you sell your house. And I'm like, okay, right there. What you have done now is you've taken a pain point where the client's saying, well, I'm listening to all this stuff that says I don't have to pay this anymore. It should be cheaper to do this. And then you're seeing where it butts up against reality of the agents going, yeah, you could do that. And the likelihood that you sell your house is very low. But let's talk about why you should be thrilled to pay for the buyer's representation. It means you sold the house. It means you got what you wanted.
And also, what I love about that is, whatever the solution to the pain point is. So everyone out there in our audience, think of the 3 most common questions your clients ask you, whether it's about purchasing a home, selling a home, why they should choose a realtor, why they should pay a commission, whatever. You can literally overcome objections ahead of time. So by crafting a great answer, and by the way, you should have answers to all of those questions because that's your job. And what you can do is you can promote that content on LinkedIn. Hey, I get this question a lot from my clients. Here's the question, and I want to answer it for you.
Right.
By doing that, people will see this content, hopefully, if you market it correctly and you tag it. They're going to now then realize, wow, this person not only knows what he's talking about, I now know that I don't have the question that I have just been the question has just been solved for me, so I do not have to bring that to me. So if I have that video or that that post about that, well, what is the likelihood that somebody who watches that is going to ask me that question in person? Probably not. They're probably not going to ask me that.
But now you've established yourself as your authority. And so I take this one step further and I say, here's the thing. If you are in any level of sales, whether you're a real estate agent or a mortgage broker or anything else in between, Here's the thing. LinkedIn, if you have 150 connections or more, okay, if you have 150 connections or more, what you could do then is you can start a newsletter. And it used to be back in the old days, you needed to have a newsletter program and an email site, and you needed to be anti-spam and all this other things. And you don't need to do any of that anymore. Now, you just go into LinkedIn. So you log into LinkedIn, and when it has the top where it says write an article, right, you just click that button that says write an article. But here's where it gets really cool. So if you go up into the top of that, there's a little button that says manage. And if you click that manage button, it shows a drop down. And one of the things that drops down is it drops down a newsletter. Well, everybody says, "Oh, okay, it's a newsletter. What are we going to say?" Well, let's first kind of deal with the information here. The information about this is, so you get this newsletter pops up and it says, "What do you want to write your newsletter about?" You need to give it a title. You need to tell us what it's about. How often is it going to be published? That kind of thing. Okay, great. We do that. We put all this information there, and then it pops up a new screen, and it says, here is your picture, which you can add a picture to it, and then it has a title, and then it has a blank thing that looks a lot like write an article. It is so not that. Here's what I recommend. Start a newsletter and do this. Let's go back to high school English, right? Let's do 3 sections that are considered standard. I'm going to include a 4th section, okay? So the first section is you need to write there's a headline. You got to do that. That's what's going to get people's attention. But if you go to the newsletter, you say, all right, we're going to start with the basically the introduction. What are you going to talk about? That's basically the first part. Tell me what you're going to talk about. Limit it to one point, but what are you going to talk about, right? So you say, I'm going to talk about this. Then you get the body. The body of the text is, this is what I'm going to talk about. This is the point I'm going to make. Great. The third part is the conclusion or the call to action. We're going to go ahead and say, this is what I talked about, and this is why you should talk to me. That's all it is. And everybody out there has something that they consider common knowledge that isn't, right? But where it really gets phenomenal, okay, is the 4th section that I tell people to do. Add something called about the author, okay? And in the about the author, this is an unadulterated, usually 2 to 3 paragraph thing about you that sells you. This is, and so let's say, for example, it's like, hey, I'm DJ Paris. I'm the host of Keeping It Real podcast. I'm out of Chicago. This is what I do. If you're, blah, blah, blah. And you do the whole sales pitch, right? And you put your name, your phone number, your email address. How do they sign up for something? But we live in the internet age, right? We don't know where this is going to go, right? We simply don't know. And so I illustrate this point by saying, look, when you put that, and then you put that out there, that article out there. I had an experience last year where I had written an article about, I think it was about the mortgage business of all things, because I came from the mortgage business and I just wanted to make a comment. So I wrote an article and I made this big thing and I put it out on LinkedIn. And then like a week later, I get an email and it's from a writer in South Africa. And he says, hey, I read your stuff. Would you be open to doing an interview? And I'm like, okay, I don't know where this is going, but sure, I'll have a conversation. He had the journalistic credentials and whatnot. So I hop on a video call with him and he says, this is who I am. And he says, I work for this magazine. He says, actually, he says, I live in South Africa. I work for a company in London and I cover the American mortgage market. Okay. And you found me? And he says, well, yeah. He says, I read your article and it says in here at the bottom of the article, if you're interested, let's have a conversation. Well, that about the author has gotten me interviews, articles written, television, radio, podcasts, and jobs and consulting jobs. And so I tell people, if you really want to maximize LinkedIn, check out the newsletters. But there's one more piece. LinkedIn doesn't tell you this, and they're very bad at telling you what they do for you. When you launch that newsletter the first time, when you go back to look at your newsletter, you look at your LinkedIn profile, you have 2 things. You have connections, which is people you know, and then you have followers, which is people that have raised their hand and said, I'm interested in what you're doing, but I'm not necessarily friends with you, right? When you send out a newsletter the first time, every single one of your followers and every single one of your connections gets a notice that says, you just put this out, pay attention. Now, LinkedIn will continue to do this over and over and over again. And then what they'll start doing is their algorithm will start figuring out who your perfect client is, and then they'll start recommending your stuff to them. And so all of a sudden, the more you put out on LinkedIn as a newsletter, the bigger your database gets.
Wow.
And so right now, I think I'm running like 3 newsletters and I have something like 800 subscribers. I've never done anything to get them beyond writing it.
I love that. Yeah, that's really interesting. I agree. I think this is. I did not know LinkedIn had newsletter functionality. I did not know that you could do audio messaging one to one, video messaging one to one. This is really killer stuff, and it's an untapped market for real estate agents. I
Right.
really want everybody who's listening to check out Jared's book, which is called The LinkedIn Real Estate Agent, which you can find on Amazon. You can also get a free chapter at classeswithjared.com. So, Jared, for somebody who wants to sort of go deeper and needs a little bit more assistance, what's
Mhm.
kind of the next step for them?
So, a couple of things. On my website, as you alluded to, classeswithjared.com, I do have a consulting button, so you can go check out my consulting, and I do one-on-one consultings. Coming next month, I'm actually going to be doing online classes, and so I'm going to actually start hosting a class, probably from LinkedIn, and then I'll have some advanced classes coming after that. And those classes are going to be everything from how to use Sales Navigator to how to actually build business. Because I actually have right now about 50 different strategy techniques that I'm going to teach people about how to build business with LinkedIn. And so, really, if you don't know what you're doing, you kind of want to find out. I have everything from, hey, talk to me for half an hour and I'll kind of walk you through your profile, all the way up to you want one-on-one consulting. And then the other thing I tell people is, I do speaking. So if you want to do this kind of thing where we do it either in person or we want to do it live at your place, come talk to me because I'm open to doing that too. But LinkedIn is really it's really an underutilized business factor for agents. And when you start realizing that, there's the adage of the red ocean, blue ocean. This is a very blue ocean. Nobody's out there doing this much on LinkedIn, especially in real estate. They're all focused on, as you said, they're all focused on Facebook. They're all focused on Instagram.
Yep.
Okay. But if you want to go where there's nobody else because nobody's really paying attention, yeah, LinkedIn is the place to go.
And I'll also make one point too is don't just post you're just listed and just sold.
Right.
Actually
Right.
try to connect with people by answering their pain points. To ask. That's what people are most. Look, it's nice to celebrate wins. It's awesome to say, "Hey, I just achieved this trophy. I just sold this home. I just got this accreditation." All of that is nice and great. And your friends and your family, they love you and they care about you, and they want to celebrate that. Everybody else wants to learn. So
Well,
go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. So I was going to add to this, which is if you're going to put out there the just listed
Yeah,
or something like that, let me make a recommendation. Instead of doing a just listed post, do a video, okay?
yeah,
And don't start in the freaking house. Start outside and say, you know what? I'm going to talk about the neighborhood. I'm going to talk about what's here. Because if you do it as just listed on that one house, and what happens when you sell that house? That video becomes completely obsolete. And now some
right.
guy's going to be mad that you're showing off his house. But if you say, look, I want to show you the video and here's the neighborhood and this is what I'm doing. And then you kind of like take the video and eventually you walk into somebody's house and you say, and here we have this great open house and blah, blah, blah. You can always chop the video, right? Just
Sure.
before you go in the house, chop the video. And now you have a neighborhood video that's an evergreen thing
Yep.
as opposed to
That's
just
brilliant.
a first time thing.
And you could do this anytime you have a listing, anytime you're really
Right.
anytime you're in front of any house. If you're not wanting to go in, say, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this neighborhood." And by the
Right.
way, this is where ChatGPT does come in helpful. So if you're in a neighborhood, you can put that into ChatGPT. Hey, are there any interesting facts or about this particular neighborhood? Anything that I would, people might be interested in learning? It will dig through, it will find things, and then you
Right.
can talk about them, and then you could point things out visually, of course, with because you're on video. And I love that. And then all of a sudden, people are learning and they're seeing that you're not just self-promoting. What you're
Right.
doing is teaching.
There you go. There you go.
I love it. So the website is classeswithjared.com. The book is The LinkedIn Real Estate Agent. Find that anywhere books are sold, including Amazon. We will have a link directly to Jared's book on Amazon in our show notes, and also a link to Classes with Jared. That's Jared with 2 R's, Jarred. We'll have a link to that. Please check him out. Get your LinkedIn profile up and running. This is where professionals hang out. These are where your clients do hang out, and you don't even realize. It is funny because the people who utilize LinkedIn reap massive benefits if they do it right. And not everybody who does not everybody who does Instagram or Facebook reaps benefits.
Right.
If they do it right. There's too much competition. It's difficult. It's hard to be seen and heard. LinkedIn is a place where you will be seen and heard if you put out good content.
Exactly.
Awesome. Jared, thank you so much. I want everybody, on behalf of our audience, we want to thank Jared for coming on, telling us all about why LinkedIn is the place to be in 2025. I want everybody to go check out his book, go to his website, classeswithjared.com. On behalf of the audience, Jared, thank you. On behalf of Jared and myself, we also want to thank the audience for sticking around to the end of the show. The best way that you can help us grow, tell a friend. Think of one other real estate agent that needs to hear this. By the way, every real estate agent you know needs to hear this. So please, it would help us out. It would help Jared out. Send them a link to this episode. We appreciate you. Find us on LinkedIn as well. Connect with us. Connect with Jared Talmadge. Connect with me, DJ Paris. I want to hear from you on LinkedIn. Send me a video message. I want to send you a video message. Let's connect in that way, and let's see what happens. So Jared, thank you so much. We will see everybody on the next episode.
Thank you for having me, DJ. It's been fun.